car market collapse everyone has been waiting for. People have been waiting on a car market collapse, a real estate collapse, and an economic collapse. But it's looking like the car market is starting to collapse now. I remember I went to the dealer and those cars were overpriced. But anyway, family, you already know what they're doing. If you're brand new too, thumbs up this video so YouTube can push this content out. Smash subscribe to join the tribe and ring the post notification bell as well. All right, let's get into it.
It's so bad at Nissan right now, they're thinking about actually selling their headquarters to raise cash so they can weather the storm.
Oh, man, wait. Hey, I didn't expect that. He hit us with a quick one. Thinking about selling the headquarters. Man, I never heard it get that bad. The whole headquarters? Okay.
Brand Nissan could be in trouble after the company announced a 90% decrease in profit from last year.
And now you have Subaru, which is the latest casualty of these tariffs.
Subaru says it's hiking up prices to, quote, offset increased costs.
They just announced that they're going to be increasing their prices.
The prices would rise by as much as $2,000 depending on the model. Ouch.
And I can tell you for Nissan that, okay, Honda was probably their one and only chance.
If a deal is reached, Honda and Nissan would become the third largest car company in the world.
To be able to get a bailout like this, a merger, to be able to help them, to be able to give them cash. Because now, since the environment's worse than it was, 4 or 5 months ago when we were actually talking about this merger.
Some insiders are telling media outlets the automaker could collapse.
Since the situation is worse with tariffs.
Well, the impact of tariffs are starting to show up in the showrooms. New auto prices are rising and incentives are falling.
Since the situation is worse with our economy here in the U.S.
Gone are the days when you're going to see widespread 0% financing, big discounts on vehicles.
And the sales numbers, they're not doing anything better than what they were doing back then. And it looks like it's very, very bad, even worse right now than it was then.
Average.
Yeah, and if y'all just saw it, don't look like nobody is in the lot other than him. That's the thing. When you go to these car dealers, you don't see nobody out looking for a car. It's only you. Tell me I'm wrong. Now, I thought by the title collapse, I thought prices were going to come down, not go up.
Paid year over year, up $825. The average incentive, it's down $263 year over year.
That they're not going to have somebody else come in and say, okay, you know what, we'll help you out. You have some assets that we want. Because right now, Nissan is probably hanging on the edge right now, and that's not something that another company is wanting to come in and be involved in. And it's more likely that, okay, 12 months from now, Nissan looks completely different than it does right now, maybe from an actual buyout instead of some kind of merger, instead of, Nissan getting some help from someone else becoming a partner, even becoming under a company like Honda. It's not going to look like that now because there's no one that's going to swoop in and actually want to come and get the assets that Nissan has right now, because you're not going to want to acquire some company that's in as bad of shape as Nissan is right now. We just had Ford come out and say there's going to be vehicles that they're selling that they're going to increase the prices on because of tariffs.
Ford is warning that tariffs will likely raise prices.
You have Audi. Audi was one of the first ones that said that they were going to be increasing prices. And I think as time goes on, you're going to have more and more and more manufacturers that are going to come out and say, okay, well, tariffs are hitting our margins, so we're going to pass the savings on to our consumer.
They've got to sit there and say, how do we adjust to the cost that we're paying? We don't want to say we're passing it along to the consumer. You're just not going to see the deals that you once saw.
And we're going to be increasing our prices by X amount. We're going to be increasing our prices by this percentage because this is what it's costing us to do.
J.D. Power has told me they expect prices to rise another 5% between now and the fourth quarter.
Now, they have margin built in where they don't have to do that, but I think initially they're going to try to pass all of these savings on to their consumers, but they're going to get hit with a brick wall because they're already having a lot of difficulty moving metal with the economy the way it is, with credit the way it is right now.
That's what I'm saying. They already having problems. So it's an attempt. They could try it all they want. If you're having trouble moving them, I don't think price increases will make it work. I think you need to do a price deduction. I think what's going to happen is this. These dealers are going to have to take losses. They're going to have to sell their cars at a loss or at break even just to get the inventory sold.
Auto loan delinquencies the way they are right now, with all this negative equity that's coming into the system right now, you're going to have trouble raising prices in the face of all this negativity that's in the market. And these manufacturers, they're going to try. But I mean, what are they supposed to do? They're supposed to try to keep their margins for their shareholders, but with that, it's going to greatly lower volumes, and I think their bottom lines are going to get hit worse from the price increases because their volumes go down than if they were to eat these things to begin with. I think they're going to learn this. And just about every one of these Nissans I'm walking by, like I see like $4,000 off, $2,000 off, $1,000 off. And here's the thing, what I worry about for a lot of these car dealers, a lot of these car salesmen, shareholders, even the manufacturers themselves, is that maybe there's been a false sense of hope that's been put into the system because over the last 2 or 3 months, you've had a big pull forward in demand from a lot of consumers trying to get ahead of these tariffs. So I really think that Q1 showed that sales were good. Q2, I think there's still going to be some of that pull forward in demand. And I see it, I've mentioned this before, and people disagree with me on this, but you have to think, vehicles that are still on the ground right now, we're in Q2 at this moment, these were delivered before tariffs were actually put into place. So you can still have some of that pull forward in demand filter over into Q2, but all of those consumers that were going to buy before tariffs were even a situation, even if tariffs weren't going to affect the prices at all, just the simple fact that the consumers that were on the fence or were thinking that they were going to buy 2 or 3 months or in summer, well, they went ahead and bought. So now you're going to have all this demand that was pulled forward, and any consumers that were going to be consumers during the summer, well, they're now not going to be there. And now you have a lot of these manufacturers that are going to actually raise prices on vehicles coming to the ground right now. So the end of summer, I think, is going to be very, very, very bad for a lot of these car dealers, a lot of car salesmen, a lot of these manufacturers.
And on top of that, the recession is supposed to kick off this summer. So consumers are not going to have that extra money to spend. We're about to see times get harder. I don't see nobody that was already on the fence of purchasing a vehicle, purchasing in a recession. I don't. But hey, what do I know?
We're going to see that in Q3, and that's when it's all going to hit the fan, and it's going to really hit the earnings of all of these manufacturers. So that false sense of hope has already been laid, and hopefully these car dealerships, hopefully these car salesmen that were able to get some of that money that a lot of these consumers were spending ahead of time, well, I hope they save it up, because I think there's going to be a big vacuum of just consumers just out of the market because of all this pull forward in demand, and now the buyer's just not going to be there. And here's another massive issue for this car market right now is we're still sitting at record high delinquency rates. We're still sitting at record high negative equity. So even if these dealerships want to try to make something happen with consumers that are coming in with vehicles they bought 3 years ago, well, a lot of these deals are going to fall through because, traditionally, a car dealership could overcome $2,000-$3,000 worth of negative equity. But what I'm hearing a lot from these sales managers, from a lot of these salespeople that I talk to, is that people are coming in with $10,000, $12,000, $15,000, $20,000 of negative equity on their vehicles. There's no strings that the dealerships can actually but they can pull for these consumers to be able to get them out of that amount of negative equity. I mean, it used to be that they could trade out of it, they could roll it into the back of the loan, they can lease them out of it, but they can't do that with $15,000 of negative equity. The car values, because of the situation we went through just a couple years ago, have plummeted off of what a lot of these consumers actually paid for the vehicles, what these banks are just as much of a problem for this car market right now as the consumers were that signed up for the loans when they have.
And speaking of that, a couple years ago, remember when all of the sales were going crazy? I'm going to say it like that. The dealers couldn't keep a car. There was no inventory. You would drive past lots and dealers and be like, man, they don't even have cars available pretty much. If so, it's not one that you want. They should have saved that money for these hard times coming. I mean, we all knew, maybe I'm tripping, but we all knew that afterwards, times would get hard. There was an influx of stimulus and additional money in the markets Now, if you know basic economics, you understand how that works, then you know that prices are going to have to increase. Economic downturn was on the way. I don't know. Or if you've just been doing some research, you should have known, right?
That would loan 125, 150% of the value of the actual vehicle. How's a customer supposed to get out from under that loan in just a few years if they want to trade out and go to that's what traditionally has made the car market really roll, is that a consumer will buy a car, 3 years later, okay, they trade it in and get a new car, and then 3 years later trade in and get a new car. Well, those consumers that would do that really push the car market in volume and velocity of money moving through the system. Well, those consumers can't do that right now. Instead of waiting 3 years to trade in their car, well, now they're going to have to wait 6, 7, 8 years to trade in their car to be able to get it to a point where they have enough equity or even get close to break even on that vehicle with the payments that they're making on the car to be able to get out from under that car. So there's a lot of destruction of demand that's going to come from all of the money that was spent from all these cars that were purchased way higher than what the actual car was actually worth, and then the banks loaned on it. So that's going to be a problem that we're not going to deal with this year. That's a problem we're going to see over the next probably 5 to 6 years in the car market. That's going to take a lot of buyers out of the system and can hurt a lot of these manufacturers, can hurt a lot of these car dealers right here, because it's deals that they would be able to write, would be able to make, and now they can't do it because they can't overcome the amount of negative equity or the credit that has been hit by all these auto loan delinquencies from a lot of their customers that come in here and want to trade in their car and get a brand new one. So you have Nissan right now that's actually thinking about selling their headquarters just so they can raise some cash. Now, there was a report out maybe, let's say 6 or 7 months ago, that Nissan only had about 12 months left of cash to be able to even survive. And we know from that standpoint that, okay, the conditions in the economy, the conditions for suppliers, supplier relations, the amount of money that's going to cost for them to ship vehicles, all of this has turned to the negative for a company like Nissan. So things have gotten worse. And we're still not that far removed from them actually trying to merge with Honda. And Honda was going to provide them a massive bailout to be able to help them survive. And what happened? Well, Nissan was the one that backed out of that agreement, and it was because they didn't want to be under Honda. But here's the thing: Nissan might not survive another 6 to 8 to 12 months in this environment right now, and they were the ones that backed out. It seems crazy to me that now they're having to go this extreme measure to say, okay, well, we might have to actually sell our headquarters to be able to survive. Now, what the plan would be is that they sell their headquarters, but they still lease it. So they're still going to be able to operate out of it, theoretically, because they're able to still stay in the building, but they would not own their actual headquarters anymore. And the reason being is because they need that actual cash right now. All right, so let me show you. This is Nissan. I know I've been talking about Nissan quite a bit, at least some point in this video. But you see this? That says $4,000 off MSRP. This one has $4,000 MSRP off of MSRP. We have many more thousands of dollars off MSRP on almost every one of these vehicles out here. You go to their website, it's Ben Minette in Salisbury, that you can actually see lots and lots of deals that they're trying to make. But what's funny, I just want to pull that up. You can see the difference between like a good dealership, which I think this one is, versus a lot of bad dealerships. I can still go to Nissan dealerships right now, and you can still see market adjustments above. Now, they don't necessarily call them market adjustments anymore because that's such a bad word, and that's just going to throw customers off, because hopefully videos like I've made have alarmed customers and let them know that, okay, you don't need to pay something called a market adjustment. They just call it something else. They call it nitrogen. They call it paint protectant. They call it something else, but it's something that's going to be not much benefit to the consumer actually buying the car, but the dealerships still make very high margin on it, and they put it on the vehicles. Still see it everywhere. We still even see it on Nissan. So you have Nissans, which, with all the trouble that we've been talking about with Nissan and all of the problems they're having selling vehicles, you still have a lot of these dealerships that are wanting to charge over MSRP. I mean, you add on dock fees, everything like that, then the consumer is paying over MSRP for a Nissan right now. And Nissan is having such a hard time, they can't sell cars. It's a bad situation at Nissan. But still, you have dealers that are trying to take advantage of their consumers. And I just want to point out the difference, because there are dealers out there that are still going to do that, even when they know their products are not worth the gold that they're trying to get out of them. But you have good dealerships like this one right here, that I believe are trying to move with the market, and they are advertising for their consumers. Look, we're taking at least $4,000 off of MSRP before you even walk in the door, before you even start the pencils. And that's something that you need to look for in this environment where you have Nissan, in my opinion, struggling. In their opinion, struggling. They're going to be trying to sell their headquarters. You have Ford overloaded with their F-150s. You have Jeep, Dodge, and Ram. We know all their problems, but those types of places, this is where you can separate easily the good dealerships from the bad dealerships, because this Nissan dealership, they still have to sell Nissans. They're a Nissan dealership, have to sell Nissans. So they have to figure out a way to sell Nissans. And if they don't make any money on the front end of Nissans, then they have to do whatever they can do to get customers into the vehicle, and that means lowering the freaking price, moving with the market. That's what this dealership's doing. A lot of dealerships don't do that, even now, and it blows my mind.
That's what I said. They got to lower the prices, and they're going to have to bring it down lower than that, I feel like, in my opinion. Y'all might disagree. Y'all might agree. I don't know. But the fact that they have to sell their headquarters and lease it out is crazy to me. I've never heard nothing like that before. They won't even own their own headquarters. But they got to do what they got to do. It seems like they should have just been under Honda to save their company. And I'm going to say this too. You should expect layoffs across all of the car manufacturers. Expect to see layoffs in the plants. Plant workers might lose their jobs soon. If people aren't buying, then there's no need for supplying. Family, let me know what you think about this video. Peace. I'll catch y'all on the next one.